Hi, everybody. It's Sally at Sally Talk. Thank you so much for joining. It is Friday at 10, so this is now my time where I go live and do a new episode of my podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Just as a note at the beginning, please, if you like this podcast, please follow me, because in the next few weeks, I'm going to really start sharing it and doing all that good stuff, and I need followers. So if you could just say, if you could follow, that would be great. And if I have a certain amount of followers, then I can be on different platforms and I can push it more. Also, you'll be what's great is that you'll be notified when the podcast goes live. So on Fridays at 10, when you're out and about, you can just click the link and boom, you'll be on and you can hear my show. So that's it. So today I have a guest, and I've been excited to have her on because I met her at a networking event. You know that I am in a network marketing business, and I've been doing it for 22 years. I haven't really done an entire podcast episode on in the industry that I'm in, because I really did want to save it to have my guest, Anne-Marie Osborne, on, because Osgood.
Yes,
Sorry, I can't believe I just said that. I have a friend of mine, I just saw her last night, and her name's Osborne. That's why I just was like, oh my gosh, me and my brain.
It's early.
Let's back it up. Now it's live. Too bad. Anne-Marie Osgood. And I always wanted to have her on because we would go out and have coffee and we would start talking about the industry. And she and I really are on the same wavelength when it comes to network marketing and how it's been great for women. And we would sit there and we'd go, oh my gosh, it's such a great industry. Why don't people understand it? And I said, well, when I have my podcast, I want you to come on on an episode. And so here she is. And so this is it. So I wanted to do my network marketing episode with Anne-Marie. So thanks so much for being on. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I am so honored and thrilled to be here.
Well, it's great. It's going to be really fun. So they're in for a nice ride.
Definitely.
Because we certainly, we have the gift of gab.
Absolutely. I think most women do.
Yeah. So just as like an opening up about what like network marketing is, it's one of those things. And I posted that in my intro for this episode. It's like, your friend all of a sudden calls you up and goes, oh, I was at this meeting last night and I really I think I want to do one of those things, where it's a product or it's a thing and they've been around for a long time. And so immediately everyone's antennas go up and they think that it's some sort of crazy scheme and everything else. And what's really strange is that the myths and everything that are associated with network marketing have been going on for 50, 60 years now.
For sure.
So what I want to ask you is, just to get started, I want you to tell, and both of us will tell, but you start by telling like how you got into it.
Sure.
Like where it came from.
Absolutely. So, my story is a little different from many people. I actually had a job that I loved more than anything. I was a dancer my entire life. I was fortunate to live out my dream, go to New York, perform on Broadway, all around the country, all around the world. So I was really living the dream that I saw for myself growing up.
You majored, didn't you major in dance?
I did.
Yeah.
I did, majored in it and did that whole thing. And, when I met my husband, he was an actor. We were both traveling, and then we decided to have kids. We went through a pretty big struggle, but finally, in my 40s, I became a mom, and I realized I couldn't be a traveling gypsy anymore, traveling around the country, and I wanted to be home with my daughter. We had tried so hard, and I was like, I don't want to go get a job that I hate.
Right.
I didn't want to trade my time for money. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge thing because I had always been an independent contractor, but I thought to myself, well, what the heck am I going to do? I wanted to provide value for my family financially. I wanted something for myself. I wanted to help change people's lives. And I just didn't know what that looked like. Mm-hmm. I really was stuck. I went through a little bit of a depression because I didn't have what I had done my whole life, my dance career. And then I had a friend call me one day and say, hey, I have this thing. And I was like, oh gosh, is it one of those things?
Right, exactly.
So I, after doing my research and like most people get in, I started using the product, and it happened to be a health and wellness company. I fell in love with the product. I started using it and decided, hey, yeah, this is really something that I can make work. It was not only changing my life, physically, mentally, spiritually, I saw that I could change other people's lives as well and bring money into my family and help out financially. So then it just snowballed from there. I was with that company for a couple of years. I am now with a different company, but I think that it gives women the freedom to quote unquote have it all.
Right.
So that's really my journey. That was my journey.
Yeah, or just have more.
Or have more.
Like just more that
have
what
more.
Yeah, what the other things are offering.
Exactly.
And what people don't really realize is that, and I just wanted to say, we're not going to talk about our companies because we're just talking about network marketing.
For sure.
And we're not in the same company. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. We actually do get along, all of us out there who are in the same industry. But, if you work for two, it's just like Kevin Durant hugged Patrick Beverly at the end of the playoffs. You can be on separate things, but, and be somewhat, a little competitive, but you can still be friends, But one of the things that people never realize with the products is that if you're going to, I know when I got in, and I'll tell my story in a second, that it needs to compete with the products that are available retail. You're not going to come out with a product that's not better. Of course, it's got to be better because that's the only way it's going to be able to compete with retail. We're not going to come out with something that's going to be worse. So,
for sure.
So usually whenever anyone gets into a company with a product, they usually say it's better than, because it has to be, to compete. I was kind of the same. It was funny. I remember back, a friend of mine invited me to like a makeup thing when I was young, when I was in my 20s. And I remember going, oh my gosh. And I sat around, and I'm 56 on Sunday. And, so this was a long time ago, 20 some odd years ago. And I remember just going, oh, you gotta be kidding me. She's going to do one of those things. So I'll go, fine. And it's like, okay, I'll spend $80. Like I remember in my head, I was like, that's it. $80. And I did that for a long time. I was very skeptical, and I was always like, they're not going to rope me in to one of these crazy things. And then when I got into retail and I was selling jewelry and I was selling high-end watches, the real big aha moment I had was when, because back in those days, you had a book, and you, as a retail salesperson, you had all your clients in a book. And if you left your job and went somewhere else, you brought your book with you. So you would, and I was in that like group because I was in the high end jewelry. My friend, Megan, worked for Armani, and these people would work with these, on that high level. They had their books of their clients, and they were a commodity. So they want to hire you with your book.
For sure.
So I was selling Rolex, and one day Rolex had never advertised. Rolex decided they were going to give you a free watch for 1 month if you sent them all your sales receipts. Really? And you faxed them over. And we were all excited because Rolex never gave away anything free. So we were all excited. We wanted to win a Rolex watch. So we were faxing over our receipts. And I had been introduced to my company. Sort of. So I'd started kind of tossing around in my head about network marketing. And I remembered, I went, oh my God, I know what they're doing. They are, because the internet was new. I was like, oh my gosh, they're setting up a database, because before the manufacturer never knew who bought their product. And now they were cutting out the middleman, and that was me. Right? Mm-hmm. So then they could start contacting them directly, and then eventually you and your little book, it didn't matter. And Breitling did it. You'd send away a postcard and get a free hat, And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that's the future. So I was the same way. I just, I tried products. It was the only thing, my skin was really bad, and it, cleared up my skin. So then I was like, okay. And then but I didn't want to do the business at all. I never, ever, ever wanted to go into business, ever. And then it wasn't until I was home with my two sons, and my ex-husband's a lighting designer, and there was a writer's strike, and they stopped doing premieres. And so I was like, oh, I think I need to like bring in some sort of income. And then that's when I decided to do it. But boy, I was still skeptical. I did a lot of research because I was super skeptical.
Sure. Well, I think the industry, since then has changed dramatically. And I think one of the big misconceptions is people don't realize we are all network marketers.
Right.
In the everyday world. We are all walking advertisements, right? If you think about it, for whatever store you shop at. So I'm looking at your shirt right now. Oh, that's lovely. Where did you get it? Right?
Right, exactly.
You're going to tell me the store.
Right.
Right? So that's basically network marketing. We are sharing a product and service to our network. Some people we know, some people we don't.
Right.
And that is the general big picture of network marketing. And there's an interesting statistic that by the year 2020, that 50% of all businesses are going this model because they see the big picture of saving the advertising cost and marketing from person to person.
Right.
Because we do business with people we know, like, and trust.
Right.
I trust your opinion. Right? If I'm close to you and you tell me something, hey, this is really working for me. Would you try it?
Well, one of the things that I think was people's, and I know because I came in as the ultimate skeptic, was that, well, yeah, I'm going to tell you where I got my shirt, but I'm not getting any money for it, But what's funny about that is that people don't understand, when I really researched the industry, is that when you buy like a foundation at Macy's, half of that foundation goes to the advertising budget of that business.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking, well, I don't want to buy from Anne Marie because she gets a piece. Well, she's got, skin in the game. Well, you buy from the girl at the counter. She's going to get a piece. Then the advertising budget, half of that you're literally funding the company's advertising budget. And then that's going to Beyonce and Ellen DeGeneres and all those other people that are the faces. So they give gazillion dollars to Beyonce or to, whoever. Ellen DeGeneres with CoverGirl, which is always still amazes me because they test on animals, but that's a whole other thing. Sorry. But anyway,
that's something I know you're passionate about.
I know. But I mean, they give her, so what they do with this is that they spread the wealth. They spread it out. So instead of giving millions of dollars to one person that you're paying for because you bought the bottle of foundation. So don't think that you're not subsidizing that stuff. You're subsidizing shipping. You're subsidizing all of it from buying that bottle. So half of it. Or your friend who lives around the corner, who goes to the school that your kids go to, who volunteers at PTA because they have time freedom. And, you're subsidizing that. So why wouldn't that be a better way?
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. And, it is the fastest growing form of entrepreneurship. It makes it easy for someone to start their own business and work from home. And, if you also look at the big picture, look at the e-commerce market, right? It is growing by leaps and bounds every day.
Right.
People want convenience. Who in their right mind, I don't know, maybe there are people who like this, want to drive to a mall and park and deal with crowds and shop? Not me.
Yeah. They used to, though. You know what's so funny? They did, because I've been doing it for 22 years, and people would be like, well, why do I, because they'd have to wait, for like the shipping, and they didn't want to wait. And now it's completely different. It's so hilarious.
It is completely different.
They're like, you mean I don't have to go to the mall? This is great.
Right. That's what I'm saying of how the world is changing. It's really kind of taken over. And if you are not on the upswing of what is going on, in e-commerce, in technology, this is giving people an opportunity that they didn't have in the past.
Right.
So that is what is so incredible about it.
And what I want to go into is the women aspect of it. So one of the things that I'm like, this is what we talked about initially way back when, was why the network marketing industry isn't given the credit and the respect it deserves, because it has way back when women, Mad Men time, when women were limited to as what they were fighting just to get away from being a secretary or whatever, there were people making substantial incomes in network marketing in the 60s, and people make fun of Tupperware and they make fun of like those, the granddaddies, but everyone still has their Tupperware containers,
Definitely.
And it was a way women could make money.
And another interesting statistic, network marketing has produced more women millionaires than any other industry.
Yep, that's right. I remember reading about
business
that.
Industry, maybe not the movie industry.
Right.
But as far as small business, it has produced more women millionaires. Right. Now, I do think one of the misconceptions, people get in and they think, oh, this is my ticket. This is going to be my get rich quick scheme. That is not
right.
That's not the reality. Mm-hmm. People say, oh, well, you can never make money in that. People don't realize it's like any business. You have to put work and time and effort into it.
Exactly.
But the payoff at the end is so much greater than, going to the traditional job for 8 hours a day, being the employee, for something that you're not even passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I remember, it's funny when you bring people in and sometimes they won't even like read the manual, like their own consultant, their own manual of starting the business. There was a joke a long time ago when I was first in, they said, if you ever want to hide anything from your team, put it in the manual because they won't read it. But I used to make everybody read the manual. And when I sat down and anyone who comes in to the business always says when they sit down with the calculator and they really start figuring out how they can make an income, they're like, oh, I get it. But one of the things that is work, it's definite work. And it's systematic work that you can't do, the old saying, you can do it full-time or part-time, but you can't do it sometimes.
Yeah, yes.
You have to do it. You have to set it, schedule it, put some hour, an hour or so a day or whatever your thing is. I started it back before cell phones and it was insane. But one of the things that, I think is important to say is that work though, you're putting in work, but it builds up. And that's where the residual income comes in. So I like to use like the example of Tom Hanks. He did Big a long time ago. He worked on it. Probably took him a month or two to make the film. He doesn't ever have to do anything for Big anymore. But when his movie comes out, in the movie theaters, they'll show Big on TNT. And he makes money off of their showing Big work he did before. So that's kind of like how our industry works.
Absolutely. And, most financial experts will tell you the smartest thing you can do is diversify your income. Mm-hmm. Have multiple streams of income. And yes, it's true. You might not be one of those people in the 2% that are making 6 and 7 figures, but what could a couple $1,000s a month extra do for the average family?
Right.
A lot.
Right. Well, there's some statistics that say $500 a month can keep people out of bankruptcy.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that is very, very doable in this business.
Well, and plus the figures is I think you have to have like to get $500 a month, you have to have something like $200,000 in an account, like as an asset. Mm-hmm. So when we think about, we're like, $500 a month, how much could that be? Well, when you retire, you have to have a substantial, to get like $5,000 a month, you have to have like $3 million, like in savings or in annuities or whatever. I'm bad with all that.
No,
I'm good at making money. I don't know all that number, but all of those things you have to have that to get that income coming in once a month, because that's really where it comes down to.
Definitely.
Is that monthly and that you can count on.
Absolutely.
So if you have a bunch of the movie Big all over, the work that you did, bringing somebody in, explaining how the business works, show them how to do it, and then they go off on their own. You keep in contact with them, but the company does most of that. I mean, it's really the way the the way it's set up, it's set up for everyone to be independent.
Well, that's it. And you know, what I love about it is that you're in business for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself.
Right.
The support that you have is phenomenal, because I think that's another misconception that, oh, everybody's just in it for themselves and they're trying to get all their family and friends. Well, what people don't understand is you are not successful unless you help other people be successful. Mm-hmm. And there's a great quote by Jim Rohn. He says, and I hope I get this right, you can have everything you want in life as long as you help enough people get what they want in life. Which is a beautiful quote, because in the end, that's really what life is all about, right? Giving back and building each other up. And this is the conversation we have going back to women. Mm-hmm. You know, women, I think, need to, and I think we're getting better. The trajectory is getting better of supporting each other.
Yes.
In small business, as opposed to competing. There is enough success to go around for everyone.
Absolutely.
You know, another one of those myths is, you know, oh, it's so saturated. There's so many people with this one company. This is one of my favorite analogies. Do you know anyone who doesn't own a refrigerator? Right? Do you know anyone? It doesn't stop GE from making them.
Right, exactly.
Right?
So true.
There's people being born every day in this world. You are never, ever, ever going to run out of people to talk to.
Right.
And I think some people get turned off. You know, there are people, sadly, who give the industry a bad name, mm-hmm. you know, where they are constantly bugging their friends. And
especially with social media, it's gotten to where people really feel like they can just, you know, vomit their companies all over social media. And I really have always restrained from doing that. Probably too much so, you know, I probably could do a little extra. But I think of course, but it's all new to us. You know, it's like all these new things. And that's another point I want to point out, is that the infrastructure always supports our industry. Like, you know, I used to always do a training where I talk about the car. And when the car was invented, only rich people, you watch mm-hmm. Downton Abbey, you know, the rich people had the car because it was like a cool little gadget, right? And then there weren't roads and stuff. Poor Matthew Crawley. But, you know, there weren't real good roads and all that other stuff, right? And then somebody said, hey, let's make roads. You know, hey, let's open up a gas station every corner for the rich people that have the cars. Oh, then when the car became, you know, affordable, oh, let's have an auto mechanic at every corner, you know, mm-hmm. And so the infrastructure started supporting the invention. Then the average guy started having a car, right? But not everybody, but the average guy started having a car. Well, now, of course, pretty much, unless you live in New York or NoHo, which they're trying, you have to have a car. And so it's which car am I going to pick? And I've always felt like that's kind of like our network marketing. It started off, it was kind of this crazy thing. It had made mistakes. There were people that made mistakes with it.
Sure.
And then when the infrastructure started supporting our industry, that's when now it's going to kick into the statistic you said about it being so at 50%. It's like, which business am I going to be in, or which business am I going to tell my friends about, or you know, whatever, be a part of, because it's just that's just where it's going. Because I mean, everything I've watched over the last 22 years, everything supported it.
Without a doubt. And, you know, probably one of, you know, my biggest advice is, you know, if someone is deciding to go into this business, you have to want to scream to the world about the product that you have. Mm-hmm. You have to be super passionate about sharing this product, because if you are not, people will know.
Yes, exactly.
People will know that there's, you know, something off. You need to be super passionate about the products that you are selling. And I think the successful people are super passionate about,
right, and they believe it. Yeah, and they really, and they've aligned themselves with the company, or they believe it. They believe, you know, and like I said, the company kind of has to, if they want long-term loyalty and reordering, they have to be with the times. They have to be, you know, they have to do what they say. The products have to be better than retail, because otherwise, you know, you'll lose everyone. Everyone, that has to be that way. And, that's what I was going to go in, and then it just went out of my head. But you were just saying that about, so when I was saying like the infrastructure, all of the things like delivery methods, the phone, I remember Facebook. It was like I know what I was going to say. The Facebook, when Facebook came out, I went, oh my gosh, there's a thing that lists my friends.
Right. It's all right there for you.
And not only, before I call them to see if maybe they're interested, I can check and see if anything happened. Like, did somebody lose their job, or I could go in and just check and make sure everybody's okay before I intrude. And then now you don't even intrude. You can send a text, or it isn't like that, like it used to be where you'd call someone and they didn't know who was calling and they'd answer, but everything has come and has supported it. But what I was going to say was the influencers, because now we have influencers.
For sure.
There are people on Instagram, and they get a cut of when you swipe up, right?
Well, that's the thing. And I think, when we going back to, everybody's just in it for the money. What business do you know in the world that is not in business to make money?
Right.
Right? If you go into a McDonald's and you buy a cheeseburger, they're making money off the cheeseburger. So
exactly.
It's as simple as that.
And they pay taxes, and they are part of the community, and they give jobs. I mean, that's part of the system, the community.
Without a doubt. And I think one of the things that I have loved mostly about this business is, even though it certainly has its ups and downs, it is such a level playing field.
Right.
Anyone can be a part of this business. It gives the average person the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. You do not have to have a college education.
Right.
You can come from any background.
You don't even have to have a high school diploma.
You don't even, of course, there's no,
really? You just have to be 18.
No diplomas. The startup cost for most companies are under $1,000. So to be able to start your own business, if you were going to go start a brick and mortar business, we're talking minimum $50,000.
Right.
And to get your investment back sometimes takes years. With network marketing, you could do it in a week. You could do it in a day if you knew, if you had the right training and you knew exactly what you were doing.
Right.
So that is the beauty of it.
Yeah, you're basically playing with the money you've earned. Like in Vegas, they always say, like, gamble with Vegas's money. I mean, after a month, and, I tried to train that you work with the money that you've, you can put it in, and then you make it back, and then you can use that to put it back, but I mean, that after that, you're kind of like, you're not in the hole. It's not like you have big loans or anything to pay off or anything like that.
That's the thing. And if you have a phone, right? If you have a phone, you can do this business. You can do this business from anywhere. You make your own hours. It's the flexibility and time freedom are really, valuable.
One of my friends who's in another business did the funniest Instagram. It made me laugh out loud, but he was kind of making fun of Uber.
Oh no.
Because Uber is a network marketing business in a way, except you don't set up residual income, but you set up when you're going to work and all that, right? And you have time, you have time freedom because you can work from 2 to 4, whatever, 2 to 6. But he did this Instagram post. It was the funniest thing. He said, "Who knew that it'd be sexy to be a cabbie?" Yeah, who thought it would be so sexy?
Oh my gosh.
To be a cabbie.
That is hilarious.
Because you're a cabbie, and the thing is so there are a lot of people that would look at our kind of industry, and this is what I don't understand. They look at our industry like it's some sort of snake and banana oil thing. And then, but yet, and nothing against Uber drivers, but I mean, people jumped onto that like it was, oh, that's great. I'll drive the Uber. Well, but it's literally like if you get sick or you have the flu or, something happens, you don't make any money. And the point of our industry is that if you get sick or something happens, or you have a death in the family, or you have, you're struggling with your child at school and you need to go in and meet with those teachers, you get to do that stuff. And you're not going to, if you work your business when you're, they always say work it when you're healthy. Because when it doesn't, when stuff happens, it'll work for you.
Well, that's the thing. People work so hard in traditional jobs to build their savings account. What happens when that job goes away?
Right.
What happens? That's why going back to diversifying your income and having a secondary income, a passive income, where if something happens with that job, your savings is depleted, you have something coming in residually. And that's another thing that this business can do.
And when you're bringing people into the business to work with you, you want them to have that as well. Whereas throw out what's the number one myth you have? I love a guest that comes prepared.
I'm so prepared.
It comes with printed out stuff.
I was a good student. I do like to prepare. So
what about that first myth that we hear all the time?
One, it's a pyramid scam, right?
Yeah.
So, here's the deal. Every single traditional business out there is a pyramid structure, from government to religion to traditional business. That's the reality. A real pyramid scam has no products. It's someone at the top bringing in a distributor, paying the next distributors from the distributors they've already brought in. There is no product involved.
Right.
And so that right there is the number one myth. I mean, how many times have you heard it? I've heard it countless times.
Yeah.
Is that one of those pyramid things? Well, in a way, yes, but it's a business, right? Every business.
Well, but even, in some structures, there's people that you can bring in your business that could do better than you.
Absolutely.
There's
Definitely.
ways that they can work it so that they can do better than you. But then, it's all based on your effort.
Absolutely. Without it, yes.
And what's different about our industry is that the people at the top want you to do really well, because then they'll do better. If you do really well and you're successful and you meet all your dreams and goals, then they meet theirs. That's a lot different than the corporate structure. I worked in corporate, that's a lot different. You're waiting for somebody to quit or get fired, or it's not from a happy stance,
chances are,
or get another job so that the opening is there so that you can move up.
For sure. Chances are, if you are working in the mailroom of a Fortune 500 company, chances are for you to move up to be CEO.
They happen, but it's really rare. That's why they get book deals and stuff, because it's really rare.
Yes.
Right.
Which is not, it's not the case. It is an absolute level playing field.
Yeah. Everyone starts with they all start the same, and then they take what they have and then they work from there. And with the now, with the influencers, you see these people that are on Instagram and everything, and they're representing companies, and they say swipe up and for this, or you
and
put
in,
and put in my code and you'll get this discount. It's like, we have to be naive to think that they're not getting a piece of that. But a lot of them, and in their defense, they like the product. That's why they're an influencer. They've picked that product. My gosh, the Kardashians have created an empire on it. Don't think that they don't get a piece of it. And everyone thinks, oh, well, they're smart. They're so smart because, they're smart business people because they get a piece of what it is that they recommend. Well, that's what I've been doing for 22 years, we're recommending a product that we've aligned ourselves with because we believe in it and we think that somebody's life would be better by using it.
And you have supported your family for what? The last... How long have you been?
Oh, yeah, 2003. 2003. 2003, but yeah, pretty much. 2003. They've been here and there, but yeah, I really kind of got it to the point where I could pay all the bills and everything in 2003. Yeah. I know. It's hard to believe. It's 2019. I know. It's really crazy.
It's crazy, right?
I know.
Another one thing that I would like to mention is the aspect of you are constantly growing in this business. The level of personal development, you know, I feel like in the last probably 3 years, I have an MBA in business and in seriously personal development because of the work you have to do. You know, if you have a Google search bar, right? We have that at our fingertips. You know, people pay $100,000 for a business degree, and having your own business as an entrepreneur teaches you that in, you know, less than a year.
My son was in marketing at University of Oregon, and he was in his class. His professor was talking about different things and started talking about network marketing. And my son was like, "Oh, my mom does that." And he was like, "Really?" And he goes, "How long has she been doing that?" And he told him, and he goes, "Wow, she's probably, you know, that's interesting." And it was funny, but they're starting now to really recognize it. I mean, it's billions of dollars in network marketing. I know, you know, it just my company is working toward the billion mark, but
that's
I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of companies out there. And people are always surprised. Oh, I know what to talk about. So we can talk about, like, why they don't hear about them. And why is it, you know, that they don't hear about the businesses, right? It's because we don't advertise.
Right.
So we're not involved in the advertising industry. So everything else is attached to the advertising industry. All of it. Magazines, all of it is all attached. And that's why when the internet came out with these blogs and people clicking and all that, it's taken a shift. Because if somebody promotes a product from a network marketing company and it gets 1 million clicks, well, then all of a sudden it has weight. It's kind of like now part of more of the advertising industry, but yet we didn't pay for it. But we don't pay for it because we put all that money toward, you know, research and development. And
definitely. And I do think, even with all the myths and, you know, the haters, I do think it is shifting, right? The whole industry is shifting. I mean, I probably go to a home party every couple weeks,
right?
Because I want to support my friends in business.
Yes,
you know, and so even in our community, you know, there are so many moms who have found this industry. And it's really wonderful to see their success. It's wonderful to see them sharing their products that they're passionate about, making money for their families. Where, as you know, 25 years ago, even though people were still doing it, it wasn't in the forefront.
Right,
it wasn't
exactly.
as accepted.
Yeah. And it's funny though, there's still people drag their feet. But they don't think that you can make any money at it. But they'll come and do it. But that person that's having that, I mean, that's why I called this like the 5 reasons you should support your friend. I mean, men do it. Yes.
Of course.
Men do it. It's great. And we love men. But women, it was a wonderful vehicle for women who wanted to be home with their children, who were making the decision to be home with their children and want to go to PTA and want to be the room mom. That was what I did. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be home. I wanted when they got home. I wanted to have the play dates at my house. I wanted to know the friends. I wanted to do the carpools. I wanted to go on the field trips, you know.
And yes, and I think all that is incredible. You know, more importantly, even it gives you a sense of value. Right? Not that being a mom isn't valuable. It's the greatest thing in the world. But for me, it wasn't, I needed more. Right? I needed more. So it also gave me a sense of empowerment, I think, to say that I was kind of building something, you know, other than just being a mom. And I think there are a lot of moms out there who adore their kids, love being home, but are like, hey, there's got to be something more out there than me just going to a job that, you know, I hate.
And the environment with the people that you're doing business with, you know, that your teams and the organization's support and the meetings they have and stuff like that, they're the funnest things. I mean, they're so filled with They're positive, and it's not at all like any business meeting that I was ever in before. I know it's funny whenever you bring anybody in from Hollywood and they come to the meetings, they're like, is this for real? Like, this is not, this is not Hollywood. Like, this is the way Hollywood is. And it's like, no, you're not in Hollywood anymore. I mean, you're in Hollywood, but you're not in Hollywood. Like, when you're in a network marketing and atmosphere and you're around a lot of people who, especially, you know, like we said, the good companies, with the good people that are really doing this for their families and to make the world a better place and make communities and work with charities and all that other stuff. It's a wonderful atmosphere to be around.
That's the thing, the camaraderie and the people that you meet from all over the country, all over the world, that you wouldn't normally meet going to the same job every day. And so I think I have that on my little handy list.
Look at your list. I want to hit all the bullet points.
You become an international business owner.
Yes.
Really. You know, I know my business is global. I know yours is as well. So, you know, you can literally start building teams from all over the world and traveling. And that's what happens at these conventions, because everyone is growing. Everyone is trying to better themselves. Everyone is trying to better their families' lives. And there is just this sense of pride and value, and it's really remarkable when you go and you're a part of it.
Yeah, it really is true. Everyone is they're so supportive, and they want everybody to succeed. And it's really, really true. And the fact that, like you said, anybody's welcome, and I mean anybody's welcome. There's never been a time in my business where I've ever even felt even a hint of anyone not being welcome. It's always, that's the thing, is that it's always been open to anyone. And that's the other reason why I've never really understood why it doesn't get the credit it deserves, because you literally can be, all you have to be is 18. You just have to be an adult. And it doesn't matter. Anything does everything. It doesn't matter. Everything is welcome. I think it's just because people just can't they just can't believe it, or it's too good to be true.
Maybe that's it. You know, my daughter is almost 9. We already have conversations with it, because my husband also owns his own business. He's in real estate, and, you know, he was in a corporate job for a long time, that driving an hour a day, getting home late, not having enough time for the family. So it was really kind of the same situation. So we both are building businesses, and we talk to our daughter all the time about thinking out of the box, right? That the traditional way of doing business is not necessarily the right way. You know, we want her to think big. We want her to think broad and global, and not just have a straight line to her future, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know, so she sees our ups and downs. She sees our struggles. She sees our happy moments. But it's all good, because we are in charge. We are in charge of our future. We are not sitting in a cubicle making somebody else rich.
Right.
That is not what we want for our lives.
Right.
And I think if you go into this industry, you have to have a very big why.
Yes.
To make it work. You have to dream bigger than you ever thought you could. Right? We have a very, you know, and we're not there yet, but we have a very clear vision of what we want for our family's future. And so that's the name of the game, is staying in it, staying consistent, because I think people get in it and a day later, or maybe a month later, they're like, well, I'm not making any money.
Right.
You can't think that way.
Yep.
You have to think long term.
Yep.
You have to think long term and do your activities, you know, marry the activities, divorce the results.
Oh, that's good.
Right? One of our top leaders, our top leader in our company. That's a great, right? It's a great way to put it. No, that's a great, marry really the activities. As long as you're doing that one thing. There's a great book by Darren Hart. I think it's Darren Hardy wrote it, called Jeff Olson, maybe. I don't remember the author, but the book is called The One Thing. Oh, yeah, and as long as you are doing that one thing every day that is going to, you know, increase your business, whether you put in a half an hour or 4 hours, you did that one thing. You will be successful.
Exactly. Well, and then it's Malcolm Gladwell, you know, he always talks about the 10,000 hours.
Makes it Absolutely.
It's funny. It's funny how somebody can open up a restaurant. Like I always use the restaurant example, is like if I opened up a restaurant, well, I'm going to tell all my friends to come to the restaurant and eat at the restaurant. My friends are going to want to come and eat at my restaurant. I don't want them to come breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't expect them to come breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the rest of their lives. If they do, that'd be great. I don't expect them to say to me, oh, I'd like to open up the same restaurant with your name and everything over in Encino, and then we'll both do the restaurant and I'll give you a kickback. I don't expect them to do that either. But if they did, that would be great. I just want them to come into the restaurant, see if they like it, and tell people that they like it.
That's a great analogy.
And if I did that, they would do that, no question. No question. I mean, I've talked on this honestly about John and his coffee shop, and oh my gosh, we'd be out to dinner with people, and he'd go on and on about how he was going to open up this coffee shop and invest a lot. And it was an unbelievable undertaking. Mm-hmm. And yes, everybody showed up at the opening. They all came to have their coffee. They all thought it was a great idea. It was unbelievable. And it was an absolute tangible example to me of why brick and mortar is really hard. And you're not going to make your money back for years. You're just not. You're not going to have a vacation. It's very romantic. It's sexy. People can come in and they can have a cup of coffee at your shop. Mm-hmm. But boy, he wasn't going to be making his money back for years. And I will say, oh, I'm in network marketing, and at a dinner party, and they'll turn and go, oh, is it one of those things? Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't even know. Like, and you bring up like a big company that's one of the biggest in the world, right? Like Herbalife. I'll bring up, we're going to name names, but I mean, they're the granddaddies. And whatever anybody's feeling is, but they're doing $13 billion a year or $11 billion a year, and people go, "Oh, they're still in business? Oh no!
Oh yes,
yeah, they're very much." Oh yeah, I mean, we're not going away,
Well, and that's the thing. I think that if people come into the industry, they need to own it. Right. I think that was, my issue when I first started. I was still, because of the stigma, I was still a little embarrassed to say,
Absolutely. Yeah,
I wouldn't use the word network marketing. But another thing and if you don't know who Eric Worre is, he is like one of the, main gurus of network marketing. He's made, millions amazing. And millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But he says, decide to go pro.
Yeah.
Be a professional.
Right.
In every aspect, because if you decide to be a professional, it's going to give the industry a better name.
Right.
Right? Than backing off of it or being embarrassed about it. And it doesn't matter. What someone thinks of you is none of your business. Mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with them.
And we don't want, we always said we're not in the convincing business. If I have to convince you to come in, then I got to convince you to stay. And that's not my, I don't have time for that. It's literally a introduction. If this is something that looks like it's a fit for you, great. If it's not, that's fine.
That's it. And, we have
it's really fine
expression. Some will, some won't. Who cares? Move on.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And then we'll say some wait.
Some wait,
and
right.
And it's when you stay with it long enough, that's what's funny, is that then people who had been like, absolutely not, no, and then all of a sudden you get that phone call out of nowhere, and they're like, you know what, let me check and see, what is it that you do again? I wanted to see, because my life situation has changed, or this has happened, or that's happened, and maybe I should look into this. And that's great.
Right. And a no means not necessarily no. It means not right now.
Right. Exactly. And that's really where we are. And if you've had an experience, and people have their bad experiences where somebody wanted them to invest a lot of money, or they wanted, there were a lot of pressure, or there were all that other stuff. Well, then that was a bad situation, but that's not the industry. And those people that are really successful in the industry, and the ones I've seen over the years, and myself included, it's always been from this standpoint of, you know what, I don't need to convince you to stay in this business. It's This is something that if you want to do it, great. If you want to be part, and it's surprising how few people you need really to join you to be successful, because, who really just want to do this just like you're doing it. It's not like you have to get an army of, direct to you thousands of people. It works on it's like that shampoo commercial, and you tell two friends
and they tell two friends and so on and so on. And that's the mathematical equation that makes it work. And that's what people don't understand. You get two, they get two, they get two, and pretty soon you have a flourishing business.
And they're happy people. They're all people that wanted to do this. Nobody got roped in. They like the product. They're happy when they're in the shower,
Yes.
or wherever.
Yes.
They're happy when they're whatever doing it, and because this is something that's clicked. It's just like when somebody gets a Coach bag or whatever, that's what they love. They got what they like. They're happy. Coach is happy. They have a 4 or 5 times markup. That's all good.
If that's your thing, that's okay.
Yeah, they really do. It's funny, those high-end places, because when you get in there and you see behind the curtain, their markup is so high, and then they give the employees 50% off, so they still get a double or 2-time markup on their employees, which is hilarious.
That what happened with watches?
And fashion. I don't give names, but I don't want to out names. Not that I have a huge following, but you never know.
Of course.
But no, it's really hilarious. The markups are really crazy, and so people are funny about how they really don't realize where they're.
Well, it's interesting you talk about cost, because I'm sure you come across this a lot. The cost objections.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just I can't pay that.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. They would go to a beauty counter or a gym and pay just as much, just as much or more for a product in a store or a mall. But then when it comes to a network marketing company, it becomes too expensive. So I don't know where the disconnect is with that.
I don't know either, because you're paying for it, because I've worked in retail.
Right.
When you buy something, it is figured out into the cost of the item that you're buying at that shop. Mm-hmm. The lights being on. So when the lights are on while they're writing up your ticket, you paid for that. When the salaries of all the employees there, their insurance, their all that other stuff, right? You're paying for the rent to have the place there. You're paying the shipping to get that item to you, so you can buy it. You've paid for all of that. It's all figured into the price. That's retail one. As my old boss, a jewelry store, Mr. Blackman, who I loved very much, used to say, it's retail 101. Like if you're fussing about shipping, somewhere, and you pay for shipping on every loaf of bread you buy at Ralph's. It's figured into the price of the product. And that's what people don't really understand. I think there are a lot of people that didn't go to take a business courses, or don't really understand, like business to them. It's not really that hard, to understand how things are priced and how retail works. You have to think about it. They have all their expenses, and they have to figure those out. How many cups of coffee do I need to sell at my coffee shop to pay all my expenses for the month? We had
obviously $3 a cup of coffee.
Right. We had a jewelry store where we had a certain amount of money that we had to make every month. That was our quota, so that we could pay all the bills. And there was, but what's funny about that kind of, what I love about that kind of industry is that our industry, there's magic happens. It's the strangest thing, but when you think about, people think it's scary because I don't show up and I don't just get a paycheck, because that's, I guess, solid, but then they could fold.
Not so much anymore.
Yeah, right, exactly. I think about somebody and I literally hear from them in a couple of days, and it's such fits into the network of just being a human.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yes, and I think that so much of it, and it's a big word we use in this industry, is mindset. Mm-hmm. Right? The mindset you put out there, waking up every morning with a positive attitude, because you are in control of your business.
Right.
Right? You have to be organized, you have to be diligent, you have to be focused, and that's really difficult for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So, but I think if you continue to have that mindset, right, that the long-term consistency will pay off, and a positive mindset,
right,
which that's why I think most people are in this business, because how it all
But
works.
I really do think that from a grand scheme of things, of like who we are as people, with everyone becoming more and more isolated in front of computers and staying home and not being around other people, I do think when we're around other people, we're healthier. And
Without
I
a
think
doubt.
our industry, I think that's why everyone's so happy in it, because it's really literally supports what we're supposed to be doing, which is connecting with each other.
Right.
Hearing somebody's story and figuring out how you can help them. And
That's a great point.
You know, it's what I think it's what we're supposed to do as humans. And so, I mean, I mean, it sounds like but I really think that. I think we're all part of this big fabric in the world and connecting it, you know, and that's why when in our industry, whenever anything happens, we make a couple phone calls and we can raise money for something. We can send things to people. Somebody says, oh, this is happening. We need to take care of it. Our networks are in place and we can just, next thing you know, a lot of magic happens. And I really, that's why I really think that it's really what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, it is. And I also think if you look at the end of your life, right? Think about the legacy that you want to build for yourself, for your family, for generations. You know, I always believe in just coming from a place of gratitude, gratitude and service. And I think, yes, to your point, that is what this industry is capable of doing. When you look at the big picture, is what kind of legacy do you want to lead?
Right.
Do you want to be? And there's nothing wrong. If you are in a job you love, fantastic.
Absolutely.
You could be in that job for the next 30, 40 years. If you are passionate about it, wonderful.
Right. We're really speaking to the people that aren't there. They're not in that place. They're still looking and trying to figure out, you know, what's good for them and will nourish them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing that I feel like I can never, once it's like taking the red pill in the Matrix. It's like when you see what our kind of industry's like and what the people are involved, it's very hard to ever like go back. You just can't go back.
It's so true. It becomes, addictive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, in a good way, because it's positive. It's like all those memes that everybody shares on Instagram. That's welcome to the world of network marketing. I mean, that's what's shared with us daily. I mean, all of that stuff, how to be more positive, how to love yourself and give yourself self-worth and love your family and all of that stuff. We hear that on a daily basis. So.
Definitely.
Oh, that's a good place to end, I think.
I know we can talk for the next.
I know. Did we miss anything in your?
Let's see my little notes that I have. We talked about low startup cost and passive residual income and being an international business owner.
Yes,
we talked about all the support you get, the personal development,
right?
The training. We didn't really talk about the training that you get.
That's
it's
always
all in
like
place. You're able to personally brand yourself and, of course, impacting lives, which is our number one goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I hope you come back. I want you to come back and be a guest again, and then we can if we want to talk about anything that's because I'm trying with my episodes. I'm trying because I don't want to talk all business or whatever. So I go in different things, and I'm still trying to figure out what is going to be but it might be all sorts of things.
There
it might
you
just
go.
be I just interview a lot of really interesting people,
giving value to the world.
But I so like spending time with you, and I'm so glad that we got to meet, through our networking group.
Me too.
And we live around the corner, which is hilarious.
Yes, which is even better. A block away.
Who knew that? But I really admire you because I really feel like you do have the best interests at heart of anyone who would ever want to do business with you. I can feel
Sally.
And we're lifers, so
for sure.
when you find a lifer in our industry, we have a lot in common. So, I wish you all the success.
Oh, well, I thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor to be here, and I wish you nothing but success. Please follow Sally Talk. She is not just a person who says she's going to do something. She said it, she did it, which is very inspirational.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, I love talking, so I figured why don't I just get a damn microphone and start talking?
There you go.
So anyway, yes. So thanks so much for following. I'm on every Friday at 10 a.m. live, and then you can, it's stored on my Sally Talk Spreaker page. I'm also on Facebook on Sally Talk, Twitter on Sally Talk, Instagram Sally Talk. So tell your friends, and please follow me so that I can then start really spreading it out into the other platforms and get this rolling. Feedback is welcome, and any questions and any information if you want to know more about Anne-Marie Osgood. She's going to be on my Sally Talk Facebook page, and you can find her there. So everybody have a great week, and I will talk to you next week.